Hello everyone, welcome to Artistically Married, where we explore the inner workings of our marriage driven by artistic expression. We're your hosts, Jake Ackerman
and Brianne Steinberg.
All right, well today we got a cool episode about health, which is important for everybody.
Yeah, I feel like it is really artistic, to be a healthy individual now. It's becoming more and more difficult. So yeah, we're really excited today. We have Dr. Kenneth Groves. He is a naturopath here, renowned in Niagara Falls. And also him and his beautiful wife, Jennifer, are the founders of Inspire Health Niagara. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Happy to talk health. Anyone of my patients who know me, I'm super passionate about the topic and I will just talk for hours about health.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Awesome. So yeah, so if you want to just tell us a little bit about kind of what got you into naturopathy and how you ended up taking on this field, because it's extensive to become a naturopath.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll probably kickstart this one off with a story. So
Yes.
as I was going through my own schooling, I was at Brock University. I would pick up a summer job just like any good student would
At the
do.
YMCA of Niagara.
Yeah. So I did do that one. And then, so what happened, seasonal allergies were a big problem for me. So I would constantly be just like leaking from my nose, things were dripping, eyes were super itchy. And I'm like, hey, I can't necessarily live this way forever. And in particular, one of my jobs at Brock was like, I'd be looking at a microscope, looking at a specimen, and then all of a sudden things would start dripping on my specimen. And then I would go and I would take some medications, and then I'd get super drowsy. I would pass out on the couch in the back, and then my colleagues would have to come wake me up. And I'm like, I can't keep living this way.
No.
So this is what kind of got my intro into naturopathic medicine. My mom actually brought me to a naturopathic doctor, and I was like, I don't know what they do. I've never seen one before. This is the early days kind of just being intro to this.
I was going to say, yeah. How did you even find a
That's
naturopath?
right. Yeah. And I didn't even know they existed. I didn't know what they were.
Yeah.
So I went to one. It did take a little bit longer. So they kind of get to the root of what's going on. But with allergies, we cut out some foods. We did some gut work. And then probably about like 6 months, 9 months in, I'm like, hey, I don't actually need medications. My system is doing better. Yeah, and then it kind of opened my eyes to like, hey, the human body is quite miraculous. And maybe if we just like give it the right tools or give the right building blocks or kind of modify things so that the system is talking a little bit better to itself, it can probably heal things on itself. And then I got super interested in this. And then before you know it, I was at Brock. I did 4 years there. Then I went straight to the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine. That's a school in Toronto. I did another 4 years there. And then once I was done all my board exams and all that stuff, I got a license to be a naturopathic doctor in Ontario. 13 years later,
Wow.
I'm still here.
Wow.
And obviously I own a clinic with my wife.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. So it was 8 years of school.
Correct, in total.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
so long. That's inspiring though. I mean, it's especially because you were already, on that path. Like you were already taking a 4-year BA and you're doing so heavily in sciences. So yeah, that makes sense. Well, we're very lucky to have you in Niagara.
thank you.
Yeah, as a part of our community. Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, today we're actually going to talk all about immune therapy. So our listeners know I own a dance studio here in Niagara Falls, Infinite Motion, and I get tons of questions. I work so closely with different populations of kids and parents, and they're all coming in with all kinds of illnesses and sicknesses. So I feel like there's lots of times where I'm underprepared. I don't have the information. So I think, I'm so excited to kind of build this bond with you and your clinic, because I feel like now I have a place to point my clients in the right direction, right?
Sure.
So that they can give them some of these tools. So yeah, today we're talking all about the immune system and immunotherapy. So if you want to just like give us a little breakdown of kind of how the immune system works and what immunotherapy really means.
Okay. What we'll do, we'll take a little step back, and I want to give a few little background analogies just so everyone can kind of understand the immune system and how things kind of work, and then what we're doing to kind of alter this. So
Awesome.
Bloodstream. I always explain to my patients, think of the bloodstream as a highway, okay? You're driving to and from different places within the body. So you want to get to like the muscle cells, you want to get to the liver, that kind of stuff. The little off ramps, those are little capillaries, blood vessels that we're going to go and travel into. The body also has lots of receptors. So you have the little doors that need to open. This has to go this way. Things are flowing, okay? So that's the bloodstream. Next, you have lymphatic vessels. So this is important to the immune system. I kind of explain these as almost like the back roads. So the immune cells the white blood cells, they can travel in these lymphatic vessels. And then with the lymph nodes, these are areas that like they can talk and communicate. And like that's why lymph nodes will get swollen if you get sick and you feel them and they're really tender.
Right.
So those are two important systems that we need to kind of define first before we can jump into overall immune function.
Okay.
I like to use what I call like the castle analogy for the immune system. So if you picture your body as a giant castle, okay?
I often do.
That's with the mode. And
Yeah.
So body is a castle. Now you have a couple types in your immune system. So the first one is called your innate immune system, okay? So this would be the walls of the castle, and it would be like if you have a moat around it, just your barriers of defense. So for us, it would be our mucosal membrane. It would be these barriers, your skin, so that things can't get into the body as easily. So that's called innate immunity. So what that is you have guards and things that are kind of sitting at the top. They will react really quick. But the thing is that they're not very specialized. So they can't necessarily tell like, hey, foreign from this is food. That's correct. So they'll act really quick, but they're not necessarily the ones that will know what's going on. Okay. Now you can move on to, it's called your adaptive immune system. So I always describe this as like, okay, these are not necessarily the soldiers on the front line. This is more like the FBI, the CIA, the special forces. So they're sitting back, they're in the rooms and they're showing each other like, we're looking for this. You know what I mean? The bacteria, the virus. And then they put these little mug shots of these things and they're like, okay, remember this, right? So we have cells in our immune system that will remember things for a very long time. So if you are exposed to that again, it can recognize it and it will attack it.
Amazing. And knows how to fight it.
Correct.
Awesome.
So two different types of immune system. Innate, walls, barriers, that kind of stuff.
The dumb guys.
Yeah. The front lines. And then the adaptive immune system.
Okay.
A couple things I did want to bring up in regards to this analogy is you also have different areas to defend. So you have like, hey, your gut, right? So things when you eat food, you have this barrier where this is like an internal layer of our skin and lots of things are potentially going to go into our body. And if we're not differentiating like how we see them as like, is this foreign or is this something good for me? We're going to run into trouble, right? So with the gut, I call these like the Navy SEALs, okay? So these are the ones that are on like the harbor front, the water, things might be trying to get into our system somehow. So with the Navy SEALs, they have to interact with what we call our gut microbiome. So these are the bacteria that live in our gastrointestinal tract. We have good ones, we have bad ones. You can't get rid of all of the bad ones. So it's about a balance between that relationship in them that is super important. And now with the Navy SEALs, they could also rely heavily on these bacteria, and I call the bacteria, they're like the little villagers, okay? So they might tip you off, hey, someone's trying to get in over here. So they communicate with our immune system, which I find extremely fascinating.
So fascinating.
Yes. And when we start to get into themes of like how our immune system works, is you're going to start to realize like these little villagers and these bacteria.
Support these civilians.
That's right. Yeah. And I think we're underestimating the role that they play in our overall health.
Of course we are. We're wiping them out with antibiotics.
Yes, it's very true.
Of course we are.
And we will dive into that as we go here. So hopefully we're starting to paint a little bit of a picture. We have different lymphatic tissue. We have these different types of immune cells. They're going to target different areas in our body. And basically the immune system is one of the organ systems that can travel anywhere throughout the body. It has keys to all the different areas and it's protecting our system. And we don't want it to kind of go astray, or we don't want it to attack foreign tissue. We want to basically train our immune system to be as refined and specific as possible, right? Okay.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think that kind of summarizes kind of the immune system.
Yeah, I love that analogy. I feel like it's kind of it's hard to really explain to people like how they're all functioning together as a unit. So yeah, I love that analogy. Did you make that up? That could be a book. That's impressive. I love it. Okay. Awesome. So what are some of the different, I mean, I see them all the time. I could probably ramble them off, but like, what are different conditions that you are treating in the clinic? It could be I'm specific to children just because I'm working with children so much. But I'm sure we do, human or a child or an adult are dealing with a lot of the similar immune type of issues. Yeah.
So probably the most frequent one I see is like just catching colds and flus like way too often. It's like, hey, every couple of weeks for some reason I'm coming down with something. Right. That's for sure number one. The other ones that are big that have an immune component to it, eczema. So this is one
Right.
that is the immune system. And so we have to help.
It's showing like an inflammation.
Correct.
It's a sign, right?
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
Next ones are like gastrointestinal health. So anything from like inflammatory bowel conditions, that kind of stuff. It does have an immune component to it. So that would be another big one. It's just like sore stomachs, just feeling things that are inflamed. So you got eczema, gut health, seasonal allergies is on this thing, autoimmune conditions, but I don't see a ton of like children with autoimmune conditions. Yeah, but
Interesting.
Yeah, but I do feel like autoimmune in general is for sure on the rise. Again, we'll chat about this maybe as to the reasons why, that kind of stuff. But I would say those are probably the main things that I see with kids.
Okay. And within this realm, I know, people have probably gone to their GP with a lot of the similar scenarios, and maybe it didn't work. So then they find themselves at a naturopath, or they're trying to prevent some of the things from going worse. What are some of the different diagnostics? Because I know that does kind of make people nervous about, what they're up against. How are they going to test for these type of things?
Good question. So what naturopathy doctors do a little bit differently, other than spend a whole lot more time with a patient.
Right.
I'm always defending MDs because I'm like, oh my gosh, they only have like 7 minutes, maybe 9 minutes max to like figure out where do I send them, what do I give them, that kind of stuff. In 7 to 9 minutes, I'm probably still talking about stories and chatting.
Learning their children's names.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know
how many dogs do you have.
Yeah. And I don't know how they do it. I'm always defending them. But naturopathic doctors sit with patients for like minimum 30 minutes is like, that's my shortest visit. And that's a follow-up. Initial visit, 90 minutes. So what we're doing is we're gathering information. And if you gather enough information and ask the right questions, you can start to piece things together. It's like, oh, interesting, that kind of here. Oh, this one, that adds up to this. So intake process is a big part of what we do. Me as a naturopath, I'm very research-based. I absolutely love blood work. So I tend to run a lot of labs. The difference is that unfortunately with, say, medical doctors, they're kind of tied to OHIP for what they have to run. So it's like, okay, they'll allow me to run this one.
They can only check for specific things.
Yeah, and they don't have very many preventative panels that they're allowed to run. And I get it, health system, you don't want to be just like wasting money. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So when a patient comes to me, I will often run a lot of nutrients. So I'll be checking vitamin D, and not just when someone has osteoporosis. I'll be checking it preventatively.
Right.
Iron, B12, inflammatory markers. We have a lot of what we call functional markers as well too. So these are compounds that the body might be making and then all of a sudden building up in the system, and you can actually forecast something might be coming. And I even tell patients, like, listen, this is building up.
This is a marker for such and such. Yeah, like, this is what we see right before this.
Correct. Yeah. And I'm like, if you let this go, I bet gout is going to come your way. Do you know what I mean? And then, therefore,
and uric acid.
That's right. Yeah, and I'm trying to help prevent that from even happening.
Right.
So a lot of what naturopathic doctors do is preventative. We don't want to have you rush to the endpoint things of trying to like get it under control. We want to prevent you in the first place from even getting it. So to answer your question, diagnostics, I'm very big on labs. So that's a big part of what I do, and running the right labs, right? Everyone's always like, hey,
and enough of them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you find a lot of things can be fixed by like just simple mineral deficiencies and things like that?
I actually love simple solutions, easy things, actionable. And my favorite solutions for people are the free ones, right?
So
it's or in the grocery store, right? Like you're already eating. Why don't you eat this? Because this is going to help you.
Correct. Yeah.
I think that I think it's really refreshing. I know, again, I deal with like a lot of populations of people, and you double as a therapist, and you're their shoulder to cry on because sometimes their kids aren't coming to dance, so they have to explain why they're not coming. So I think this is so refreshing for people to hear that there are doctors out there, because that tends to be a complaint. Is they're like, I was in there for 5 seconds, like I didn't even get to my third, fourth, fifth thing, and maybe they're all related, and I only got to tell them one.
Yep.
Right. So I think it's so refreshing that people are going to come in and actually be like heard as like a whole person and all of their things, where a doctor really is limited to like those, like I only have time for one thing because I'm getting paid from this external source.
Yes.
So while obviously, we can't hide the fact that there is financial responsibility with like practitioners, but I think it really is, maybe it's a happy accident or byproduct for you that you aren't like bridled by some of these things, right? That you can just be like, you know what, you're on your own dime, but let's figure this out and make your life better.
That's right.
So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, that's literally what I do.
It's my job. Amazing. Jacob kind of touched on this, but what are some different like natural substances that you see that do have like such great success, and how do you prescribe them, and how do people incorporate them in terms of treatment?
So there's going to be a theme here.
It depends.
It definitely depends on like what it is that we're treating. The individual is what we focus on. So sometimes like not everyone is B12 deficient. So if someone is, I will fix that deficiency, give the body those building blocks to be able to do its job better.
Right.
Now, one of the other things, a theme that will come up here is lots of things hub back to the gastrointestinal tract. So this is where
Microbiome.
Yeah, exactly. And so I do a lot of work with gut health. 70 to 80% of the immune system actually comes from the gastrointestinal tract. So I still think there are things that we don't know or we haven't learned yet in research of how things are communicating. But like often a lot of the supplements or nutraceuticals that I'm prescribing are to target gut health.
What did you say? Nutraceuticals?
Nutraceuticals.
Wow, I've never heard that word. I love that.
And so like L-glutamine is one that I use with a lot of kids. Very safe. This is helping like the gut repair. So back to the castle, this would be like, hey, if there's like someone's chipping a little hole in like the castle wall, we don't want them to sneak in through that hole. We want to repair that, right? So L-glutamine is very, very good at repairing that hole back up on the castle. So I use that one. Probiotics, which is the actual bacteria themselves. Vitamin D is another big one. And then I get into like some specifics where like I might use some for like a week or two and then stop. There's other ones where I might use for like, hey, take this for the whole winter and then stop in the summer. So the category can get like just dependent on what we're trying to do and what the individual needs, but we definitely have options to support like acutely. And then my favorite is the ones that will like act as a preventative and then keep the system strong. So just as to add to my story when I was talking about allergies there, like I would get full blown leaking nose everywhere, and now all of a sudden you fast forward, I now have like 50 plus chickens. I'll cut the grass with like the grass flying everywhere. And that used to, one of my worst nightmares in school, in elementary school, was going to the class trip to the farm or the barn or to any of the animal places. I'd be like, nope, I'm sick today. I'm not going. And now I will gladly embrace myself in any of those. And the best thing is like, I'm not really taking anything. It's like, hey, my body, I gave it what it wants.
You healed it.
That's right. And I keep it in balance now, and I keep gut health up to speed. And now I don't need to take anything.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I get animal allergies. It's kind of the only thing that bothers me still, but
well,
yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
Maybe need a visit.
Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit more about the probiotic system? Like I am constantly preaching this to everyone around me.
Yes.
But I think it really, it is like such a influential part, and especially because, there are times where you have to be, taking an antibiotic because of something that's in your system. But I don't think we're being given this second portion, which is build it back up if you are in a situation where you have to take it.
That is correct.
So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. So when it comes to gastrointestinal health, there's basically like three main pathways that I explain to patients. The first one is enzymatic. So this is your body's ability when food goes into your system to break that food down. Okay. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's important, because you're sending food off onto the next sections of your gastrointestinal tract.
Right.
If you do not break your food down, say someone doesn't secrete enough digestive enzymes, maybe they drink too much fluid with their meal, they're diluting out their digestive enzymes. Another common one is they're eating in the car, they're eating stressed out. When your body's in that stressed out state, you actually won't secrete enough digestive enzymes to break your food down.
Well, because you think you're running from an animal, right?
Exactly.
You're just trying to get to work, but you're actually, your body thinks you're being chased.
That's right. And it will shut off the gastrointestinal tract. That's right. Yeah.
I did hear that too. I heard somebody say that food tastes better when you're sitting down. And I feel like that would be like a similar response, right?
That's correct. I'm like, hey, pay attention. What does it taste like just sitting there? So I am big on like mindful eating. You can call it whatever you want it. But I am very big on those two. And think about it. They're both free, right? So it's like, don't drink a lot of fluids with your meal. Do you know what I mean? And then the other one is like, don't eat when you're stressed out. And if you need a distractor, like my tip is like, don't scroll through like social media and be like, oh, where's that person? I wish I was on vacation. And you get all mad, right?
and then you eat a burger.
So the one that's kind of stuck with patients, if they can't shift out of an emotion quick enough, I tell them pull up like funny reels. Mine, I really like funny animals, like climbing and doing funny things. They fall off. Funny cat videos, whatever is like your thing that you like doing. Scroll through that while you're doing it, right? So and then so it'll distract the brain a little bit. It'll focus on digestion. Now, that's only the first pathway. So the food, if you're not breaking it down properly, you can actually send undigested food particles off into the small intestine. This can become a problem because these undigested food particles, they can cause damage to the wall. Okay, and if they constantly irritate,
too sharp, too aggressive.
that's right,
Okay,
and just an irritant, and then eventually, it's not something where the next day you're gonna have a problem. It's more like 5 years down the road, you're probably gonna have a problem.
Your intestines.
That's right, and things will start leaking.
How do you fix that?
Yes, and then so that's kind of your enzymatic pathway. The second pathway is what we call the gut microbiome. So these are all the little bacteria that live in there. I kind of describe it as a community. You have good bacteria, you have bad bacteria, you might have yeast, fungi, all kinds of other things. Now the body can't rid these completely, but you can keep them in check. So it's like, hey, the other community members say like, stop doing that, right? Or we're going to kick you out of this area, or we're going to want you gone. So it's those good beneficial bacteria, kind of like the villagers that I was talking about, where they're the ones, they're the little watchdogs, they're keeping an eye on stuff. They're alerting the immune system to then kind of like come and take care of it. So that's your gut microbiome. And there's lots of things that we do. I call it the North American syndrome that we do in North America. Go, go, go. The foods we eat, things that are in them, they will damage this gut lining. And then the last pathway, this is the gut lining, and it's called repair. If we cannot repair our gut lining, over time, what's going to happen is the bacteria aren't going to live there. So it's almost like if you went to like a campsite. I like camping. I like being out in nature. You're gonna be like, hey, do I want to set my tent up on the patch that is on fire or that has a swamp? And my answer is no. I want to pick a nice area that the microvilli, of the gastrointestinal tract. That's right.
Yeah,
and so and the bacteria are the same way. And it's the bad bacteria that like to inhabit the damp, stagnant environments that are inflamed.
Yeah.
That's right. And they also feed off of sugar.
They thrive off the sugar.
That's correct. So you will feed them. And that's kind of the repair pathway. They all go hand in hand. So like I'm often like addressing each individual person. Which part of this pathway do we need to look at? And where I'm going here is that the reason I think we underestimate these little bacteria is because as the system is strong, the towers of bacteria will grow higher in the gastrointestinal tract. You will protect that lining in the gastrointestinal tract. And then the world that I feel like I've been mentioning this for probably the last 5 years, and everyone's like, I've never ever heard that term before. So lots of people know about a probiotic. This is the live bacteria themselves. Often people know about a prebiotic. This is fiber and feeding the bacteria. Correct.
Yeah,
that's right.
Okay.
Not many people know when I say, well, what about postbiotics?
No, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, okay, good. And again, just put this into perspective. I've been saying this for probably over 5 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So postbiotics are compounds that the bacteria will make. Okay. And then in your system, what we thought at the beginning was, hey, they made this compound like a mucoprotein or something else that favors its growth. That makes sense. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if I'm going to live here, I want to do things that are going to help me live. Do you know what I mean? Now,
it grows the food around it that it likes, or
and
things
keeps
that
the
it
buddies
likes.
here and the other ones that they like.
Right.
Now, what we're starting to realize is some of these postbiotics that, again, the bacteria made these.
Right.
Okay? They go into the gastrointestinal tract. We reabsorb them back into systemic circulation in our body.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're starting to realize some of them, like there's a big one, it's called urolithin A. It will go off and help like the mitochondria of the cells, help with energy and like all kinds of other stuff. So it's like, I think we're underestimating like what these bacteria do.
They're typically good things?
Yeah.
Okay. It's something that the probiotic is like offshooting to help the whole system go back into itself, like
That's
recycle.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Now you bring up a good point, because now it's like, hey, what about bad bacteria? Are they making any of these postbiotics? And the answer is yes. And they're usually like endotoxins or other things that you do not want back into systemic circulation. Right. So if you picture that, it's like, hey, the wall's got some holes in them, and then we have bad bacteria. They're like sliding the dynamite further in, and boom, it's like going to blow up a whole wall of your castle. So it's like the immune system has to deal with like both sides of that. But if you have a good functioning gastrointestinal tract, you're going to have like the ability to max out like these urolithin A. What if there's urolithin B, C, D? I have no idea. But my point is like, I wouldn't necessarily be on board with like wanting to buy a supplement for that. I would rather harvest the own bacteria in your gastrointestinal tract to help
so
out.
It'll do that by itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? I think we were talking about this off air a little bit, but I think in our medical system, we're always trying to look for a quick fix, right? So we're just like, okay, what can I take that's gonna like skip step A, B, and C? But you really can't. I was just reading something, and they were basically saying like, I've read this a lot, but like you can't take the supplement. You have to like tell the body to synthesize it, right? So you have to do the pre-steps so that your body naturally just does this by itself. So
you got it. Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot more of like backpedaling in our medicine and being like, no, you know what? We can't skip steps. We got to do it the right way. Go back and kind of be more organized. So that kind of is a perfect interlude into our diet. So I mean, we were talking again off air. We're all up against this. We're all dealing against that, like you said, that North American lifestyle that we're up against. So what are some like different dietary things that, I mean, maybe you see in the clinic or you think people could really benefit in terms of using to promote their immunity health?
So even with the foods, we tend to break it down into like, what are we trying to address here?
Yeah, so it's going to be dependent on per client. Yeah. And
a lot of the foods, it just so happens, again, if it's good for the gastrointestinal tract, it tends to be good for the immune system, right? So we're supporting the building of the lining and the bacteria so that they can thrive in that environment. So like we do have foods from like ginger. I would say ginger is one of the best for the gastrointestinal tract. So like I'm often giving it in the morning as like with lemon and ginger, maybe some coconut water, making a nice little tea. That is a staple that I have recommended for 13 years. I do it personally for myself. It's a nice way to start the day. You're hydrating the entire gastrointestinal tract. Then we can move on to like raw honey. So unpasteurized honey, I would say, is again a really good one. And the neat part about this one is, again, for years I had been saying like, I'm pretty sure honey is not going to affect diabetics and like with the sugar the way we think it does.
I think it's going to cure it.
That's right. And 100%. It actually is starting to come out. It's such a slow
release sugar that it's incredible. Same as fruit, right?
Yes.
Like,
and some of the compounds in honey and that kind of stuff. It's just so diverse. But you run into a problem if it's been refined and ultra processed. And now these type of foods are not going to benefit us.
They actually add artificial sweetener into it. And like, or real sweetener or just sugar, right?
Yes.
They're like, this is honey. Well, they mixed it with sugar. Like, it's not real honey.
That's correct. Yeah. And then you move on to foods like kind of like garlic and onions. These will help support like the body's ability to detoxify things. Same thing with mushrooms like shiitake, maitake. I'm a big fan of like bone broth soups and like making nutrients very bioavailable for the body. So like chilies and soups and those kind of things are big for like kind of a transition of seasons for like the fall time into winter. Avocados is another good one. Foods that are high in protein. So if you think about this aspect, protein is the building block for the immune system to make antibodies. So these antibodies are like little flags and little markers that help other immune cells to identify who they have to destroy. So it's like, hey, we flag you, you're now kind of lit up, we can take care of you, whereas we don't want to attack like a cell that's our tissue, because then that would be considered an autoimmune condition.
That's interesting, because obviously it's like it's a repair all, right? It repairs muscles, it repairs brain, it repairs like all your cells. So we have a lot of discussions in our household about protein. This maybe isn't an attack, and you could just say I don't want to talk about this, but Anna, our daughter, came home and told us that they're teaching them the food pyramid is no meat. Did you hear about this?
Oh, I have not got that one yet.
Oh my gosh, Anna came home and Jacob
or just like meat wasn't important or something.
Yeah, like you can get artificial meat, and I was just like, oh no. I mean, obviously, I use like protein shakes and stuff. There's lots of like protein alternatives now. But how do you feel about meat?
Yeah, another good question. Now, I can draw upon, as a practitioner, we get what we also call clinical experience. This is why we call it a practice. Right?
Yes.
So not only do we learn what we learn in medical school, but as we come out,
all these patients coming in and giving you their stories.
That's right. And they're like, hey, I've been following this and I've been doing this. So
tell me about it.
That's right. So my conclusion when it comes to foods and different diets and way of eating, there is no one set way of eating.
Sure.
Yeah. Other than we can all agree that ultra processed food, so things with like tons of ingredients and ingredients
chemicals,
we cannot pronounce, ingredients, dyes, the list goes on and on. Those are not good for the system. But I have patients come in on the carnivore diet, their gastrointestinal health is thriving. I have a patient come in on carnivore, they are bloated and it's super inflamed. So it's very individual. And I don't have necessarily a set way of eating that I tell people like you have to follow, but I am basing it on like, if you're going to eat this way, let's track labs. Let's see if inflammatory markers come down? Is it going up?
Right.
What did it do to hormones? What is it doing to nutrients? So I tend to follow labs. That will help guide what I'm going to put someone on. And then you can also look at foods as like, how I look at them. I'm like, okay, not only like protein, fiber, healthy fats, but I look at it like, okay, where's zinc? Where's selenium? Where's magnesium? So we're going through the different foods. So you have ones like pumpkin seeds and seafood. They're really high in zinc. Zinc is another super important mineral for the immune system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you have all your other ones, like lots of people know vitamin C, right? So really good for the immune system too. But trying to incorporate a variety of foods that are going to hit those different parameters is what I think is super important.
Awesome. I know I maybe I could, I don't know how much you're involved, but me and Jen have had these like wonderful conversations because we're both into gardening and, you know, growing our own foods. So yeah, do you like see stuff coming through the clinic or I guess, yeah, it would be like you said, like a practice where we're starting to see, you know, foods that are like being less nutrient dense or foods being chemically, you know, processed or things like that. How do those things come into play in terms of our diet and trying to deal with, you know, okay, I'm eating all these things you're telling me, but unfortunately now they don't have those in them, or were you doing monoculture, so they're being like the soils are stripped. So yeah, how do we deal with kind of stuff like that?
Yes.
Or we should be getting it from it, but we're not.
That's right. So I think a lot of the focus with agriculture does have to go back to the soil itself.
Yeah.
What are the nutrients in the soil? And a topic that's not often discussed either is what are called like soil-based organisms. So these are little bacteria and other things that are living in the soil. We're realizing they also benefit us as well too. So I think where some of these trends in like food production and other stuff is headed is like, I think it's headed in a bad direction with things being made in labs. And even like the latest one I heard was like agriculture and greenhouses are going upwards, and it's like the roots are dangling and they're spraying different cocktails of nutrients on it.
Yeah.
And my concern with that is like, where's are the
soil?
soil-based organisms?
Yeah,
So these are the little
soil?
things. And if I just went through and explained, hey, they're making compounds, postbiotics, they are not present in that symbiotic relationship, right? So we can go on and on, but like I do think the more refined, the more processed things are, we're going to run down a bad road. And like we just fail to like respect nature and like what it does, because it can take care of a lot of things, and like it can regrow from a fire, it can do this, and like we underestimate the power of nature, and I think we underestimate the power of the human body, and we should be going back to basics of giving it the building blocks, supporting it, embracing it, rather than trying to override it. As humans, we're like, how can we override that?
Fix it?
How can
We're
we control
science.
it?
We're smarter than it,
That's right.
Yeah, we're smarter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really exciting for me anyways, is that, and I we talk about it a lot of like having your own garden, because people will say to me like, oh, I only have this small plot of land, and I'm trying to explain to them it's really just about eating your dirt. It doesn't matter what's coming out of it, you're getting from the dirt, right?
Yes,
so like
yes.
I'm constantly telling people like, even if you can only grow tomatoes or only grow carrots, or just, you know, pick one crop every year that you're going to start including, it really is about the fact that you're eating the dirt that's in your backyard that hasn't been chemicaled, hasn't been, you know, it hasn't been poison on it, and it's coming from a really great place where it has all those bugs and those bacteriums in it, right? So I think as me like being in a community, also trying to make them more successful, I'm constantly telling people it doesn't matter if it's just like a little hanging bucket with strawberries, like you're eating your own dirt, you're getting the stuff from the, like you said, it's from the soil, right?
That's right. Yep.
So yeah, I think that tends to like make a big difference, which is great.
Is I don't think we brought it up earlier, but is fasting something that you do and recommend? Or
Yeah. So this is another concept that is like, so we enter the world of, so me personally as a naturopath, I'm a big fan of what I call like traditional medicine and therapies, and then blending it with like modern science. And this is an area that I don't think has enough funding or research goes into this, but like clearly people have been living and doing things for thousands of years, and like you have to give them some credit as to like what got them better, or hey, we made this soup or this concoction, whatever you want to call it. There is merit to this, and I love research studies that are trying to find what compounds, what receptors, like, because my brain is very pathway driven, so I'm very similar to a medical doctor in that sense, that I want to know why.
Yeah, where did it come from?
That's right.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily just settle with like, okay, just take it because it's good for
why.
you. Yeah. So I
yeah.
like knowing the why and having the research backing it. But that does mean that we have to put some emphasis on some of those treatments or things that they were doing. Yeah, but anyways, hang on, help me out here again. Where
and that's why the fasting.
That's right, okay.
Yeah.
So fasting is, you can see how I like to go on tangents.
Yeah,
that's
it's all good.
Fasting is one of these traditional type of approaches to your way of eating
right.
that you can get a lot of benefit from. So I do explain to patients, we live in this world of abundance for food. So we live abundant food and not necessarily that nutritious. So we end up in a problem where we're constantly giving the body food. It's constantly being stimulated, but it doesn't necessarily have all the nutrients that we require. So what fasting does, and I'm a huge fan of fasting. So I like intermittent fasting. I personally follow this. I'll go off and on depending on the hockey schedule
How much sleep you
or what
had,
we're
you
doing
know?
with kids.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
what fasting does to the body is it will be a restriction of food, and now it kickstarts processes in our system to now all of a sudden go through things, recycle things better, do cellular clean out. So it's almost like a spring cleaning. So you're going to get this debris, get rid of that cellular debris, gone. This protein, how can I recycle it? So I do think this is something that's underutilized in medicine, and it can help the liver. It can help reestablish blood sugar, decrease inflammation. The list goes on and on. And again, this is one of those tools. It's free.
It's free.
So
yeah.
I like it.
Can you avoid food for 24
That's
hours?
right.
It's very hard.
Correct. Yeah.
I think you brought up a really interesting point because if we go back to like some more I want to say primitive, but it's just, past cultures, they were kind of in a situation where they were forced, right? Or maybe it was like, I have to go like hunter-gatherers, I have to go hunt for my food. So I'm only going to take what I can or what I get at the time, right? So maybe it was like kind of built into their eating systems, these like fasting processes. They like, it's a lot of work. So we're only going to do it once every 2 days and we're going to feast and gorge, and then we have all this time off that might have made their systems a lot longer or like more healthy, right, of like long lasting. So
that's right.
I think that was like a really interesting point. And I think the other thing is that we're in a situation where we are like overeating and we have so much food and we're not getting the nutrients we want, so we're constantly hungry. I find I was listening to your other podcast and you were talking about like getting protein in the morning, and I was like, I am night and day a different human. If I don't have protein in the morning, I'm starving by 10 o'clock. Whereas if you get that protein in the morning, so I think people that are struggling with their diet, where like they can't fast or they can't go an hour without food,
Sure.
they would be a lot better off if they could introduce some heavy protein, right? If they had more protein in their diet. So
yes, that's right. And then
go ahead.
you're right.
Well, I was going to say, sometimes you're just thirsty and you'll eat stuff because you're thirsty, and then you just need to drink some water and that goes away, right?
That's literally a line I say to patients. And we often
Were
confuse.
you hungry?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then not to get too far into intermittent fasting, but there are some rules you have to follow, right? So when the body is coming off of a fast, there's certain nutrients and things that are more advantageous to give it at that time. And then if you don't, you can probably put more stress on the body. So I do follow some good rules and guidelines.
So you shouldn't fast and then go to the Mandarin?
Yeah, right.
Damn it!
yeah. It's not like a free pass to then eat whatever you want.
Yeah. Also, I'm really interested in like some of those things that are happening when you are fasting, because I think it's really interesting that when we're constantly bombarding ourselves with food, that we're not giving our bodies that time to just focus on that, right? It can only do one or two things at a time. So if you're constantly putting things in your mouth and has to digest, then it can't do some of those like cellular repair and stuff like that.
That's right. Yeah. So the fancy medical terms for these are autophagy, so that just means cellular clean out. You get a little more specific, it's called mitophagy, so that's like cellular clean out in the mitochondria. But some of these, like the electron transport chain and some of these things where we make energy, they can get gummed up too, right? And if you don't stop the process and be like, okay, let's stop having this available, you'll now trigger a process in the body that's like, let's clean. Do you know what I mean? So we don't have things around. Let's recycle a little bit better. Let's do this. And my other thing is, like, I often explain to patients, because I am a fan of animals and nature and that kind of stuff. True nature, they might go days without food, right?
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, as humans, we just, because we think we're so smart and we can control stuff, and we've done this.
We have Sobeys.
That's right. So we don't often go through these processes anymore, and I think it's leading us down a bad road. And same thing with our agriculture, agriculture and the way we raise animals. If you think about it, we're constantly giving them food, and I don't think, to my knowledge, it's been explored what if you make an animal intermittent fast for, like, what if you're raising one. How does that affect
Well,
its
you're in the
system?
perfect opportunity. Tell Jen to stop feeding those animals.
Or it's like you're still controlling for nutrients, but maybe allowing them to go a little bit, like what actually happens in nature, right?
Yeah, you
That's
might end up
even,
with cleaner meat.
That's an interesting thing to think about too. Like, imagine everybody had that fast built in, how much less food would be needed, kind of helping out like the food supply issues and things like that, right?
I don't think we have food supply issues. I think we
exactly, but
we have financial issues.
Yeah, and nutritional
issues
food.
In
the food.
Yeah,
exactly,
for sure.
exactly. Yeah,
I know you walk into your grocery store and you're like, okay, this part came from the ground and all of this came from a factory.
Yes,
yeah.
It's like way overstocked, right? Yeah. Awesome. Well, I mean, I think we could do a whole podcast on all the different like nutrients and dietary stuff. Dietary stuff.
We were going to talk about the mucus forming foods.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, let's do that. Yeah, let's
Perfect.
go there. Because, this is news to me. I totally think and I bet you a lot of our listeners too, we're not taught these things in school. Like, why is my nose running 24/7, right? I must be getting sick, and what should I do about it? So, I think this is really a key piece. It's awesome.
And this, out of all the foods we've been talking about, from protein to avocados, gut health foods, the mucus forming foods is one that I often will explain to patients and parents that we want to do this for like a set period of time. So it's not indefinitely, but at the first onset of like catching a cold or flu, the body, again, it's a natural response to make this mucus. But what will end up happening is like some of these virus and bacteria, particularly say in the sinuses, in these confined spaces, it will make so much mucus that it becomes thick, viscous, stagnant. Now, the bacteria loves to replicate in stagnation areas, right? So I'll often say, let's drop mucus forming foods for about like the next 5-7 days, maybe 10, and then we'll give them back to the child once it's kind of, we've gone through this process. So some of your biggest mucus forming foods, anything sugary or a liquid sugar is going to instantly cause
except
mucus.
For honey.
Except for honey. And I consider that not even a sugary
sugar.
food. Correct.
Yeah.
So things like, one of the biggest myths I like to bust is like, everyone's like, okay, I got sick, I'm going to chug my orange juice. And I'm like, no, like, don't do that.
That's pure sugar.
That's right. So pure sugar. If you want to eat an orange, go ahead. You got the fiber, you got the nutrients, all of that stuff. So I'll tell them, eat your orange, ditch the orange juice. So all different fruit juices, that kind of stuff, especially if it has like, say, fructose, high fructose corn syrup, the list goes on and on.
That shouldn't even be in people's houses.
Agreed.
No, thank you.
Yes. And then as we go through this list, you do have some good foods on this list, but we just have to chop them out, again, temporarily. So bananas is probably number 2 on this list.
Oh, wow.
No!
So I'm often chopping these out, again, 7 to 10 days, right? Maybe 5.
They're high in sugar.
Yeah, so they're high in sugar. They're very mucousy. And then all of like dairy, cow's milk, cheese, cream cheese, all of these things, again, thick, viscous, very mucousy. Peanut butter is another one as well too. So again, we're just dropping them, right? Because natural peanut butter, I'm like in favor. Well, maybe not me because I'm allergic to it, but so yeah, and we might touch on that too as we get into, because it does involve the immune system. Yeah, but peanut butter's got to go.
I want to do a whole allergy one.
Yeah, and then you have muffins, like refined like white bread, pasta, cream sauces like cream of broccoli, Alfredo sauce. So I usually just supply this list. It's like, here's your mucus forming foods. Drop them. Yeah, for again like 5-10 days, just until the system is going to kind of like flush things out. Plus it allows the immune system to see things a little better. It's almost like they're playing hide and seek. They're hiding under that mucus. We want to expose them, flag them, get rid of them, get them through the system. This one, I do almost like, I kind of say that there's little clinical pearls and like topics that like, I'm like, this one really works well. Like, don't underestimate that. These mucus forming foods fit in that category where it's not, you're not going to avoid catching stuff maybe in general, but it can shorten the duration of how long someone might be down for. So instead of like 2 weeks wiping the system out, it can be like, hey, 5 days, 3 days, right? So we'll try to shorten it.
Yeah. And that really is something so simple for parents that they can do, right? I mean, we're making the meals for them, so we just got to keep it out. I really think it might be exciting too for parents when, you know, you might see other benefits, right? If you're kicking out sugar, period, I think like, you can really notice a difference in your kids' behavior, their like mannerisms, their sleep cycles, like all those things, that it might be the kickstart for parents that would, you know, lead them into a healthier lifestyle anyways, to get rid of some of these foods.
That's right.
Maybe no reintroduction. Except for bananas and peanut butter.
Yes.
No one can live without that. Awesome. Okay. So yeah, can you just tell us, when we were prepping for this, we were really curious. We've heard like some different things, the words tossed around, like homeopathy, osteopathy, and naturopathy. Can you explain for our listeners just kind of a differentiation between them?
Yes. So when we go to school to train as a naturopathic doctor, under that umbrella, we learn different modalities that are going to help us. So we call these like our tools. So this is why I really resonated well with becoming a naturopathic doctor is like we are kind of practicing more like different practitioners from all around the world. Okay, so you have certain countries that even favor certain modalities. So like over in like England and London, and they
Lots
practice
of
a lot of
Scandinavia.
that's right. They practice a lot of like homeopathy over there. It's even in the hospitals. Over here in North America, it's not anywhere in the hospital. So these different modalities, so like homeopathy, botanical medicine, lifestyle counseling, psychology. So these are all things that we learn about. Acupuncture, so putting needles and stuff in people. We learn those as we go through our schooling. And now as a patient comes in, we try to differentiate like what modality might work best for this patient. And I've watched like homeopathy work with some people. I've watched it do nothing, right? And in particular, homeopathy is always the one that gets like the brunt from conventional medicine being like, it doesn't work. It's just hocus pocus, witchcraft, like whatever you want to call it. And this is my opinion again from doing this. I will be honest, I skipped this class when I was in naturopathic medicine. I'm like, this is ridiculous, right? And then fast forward 13 years, I'm like, there's something to this. I personally feel the research just hasn't caught up to how homeopathy actually operates in the body. So the way we design like scientific models and methods and analyzing stuff, it's tricky to like understand and measure what it's doing in the body. So I'll explain homeopathy as a modality. It is considered an energetic based medicine. So it's often these little like white little pellets that you're given, and somebody has sat and tried to figure out like what remedy fits you the best. And the best way that I can explain this to patients is it's kind of like this, okay? If I were to write a message down on a piece of paper, I fold it up and then I pass it over to you, okay? And then on the paper, there's information on what to do, okay? So say I wrote like, hey, invest in this stock. I know that like, hey,
it's going to do well.
That's right. And so you take that and your body will act on that, okay? So it's like giving information to the body on what to correct in itself and how to fix that. So it's a very, very fascinating modality.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you can alter like maybe this receptor or this gene or something has to be activated, but it told the body what to do. But sometimes if it's not the right remedy, it's not going to work or it's not going to help. So this modality, like I do think people say if a naturopath practices it or say you have a specific homeopath, so that would be a person just focused on that modality. You do have to be good at what you're doing for this modality.
I was going to say, it sounds like there's so much like research base that goes into it that they must have like so much understanding of biology and anatomy.
That's right. Again, I guess that's how like our system works, is just what can you measure, and if it's hard to measure, then that's hard for people to understand, I guess.
That's correct. And I do feel energetic medicine is it's like, what markers are we measuring or what are we following, what are we tracking, right?
You were saying something like that blood work that you could be like marking, right? And like, okay, try this for a certain period of time and see if it works.
That's right. Yeah
Like you said, it's a practice.
Yes. And then to break down osteopathy, this is something that naturopathic doctors do not learn in their training. So we will learn a little bit about the bones and manipulation and that kind of stuff. But osteopathy is its own kind of practice for like helping the body's nervous system and the muscles and the bones and lymphatic drainage get back into balance. So like that's solely what an osteopathic practitioner will do in their practice. Yeah. And I do like working as like my favorite model for healthcare is like an integrative approach where the patient's in the middle. It's called a patient-focused model.
Yeah.
Team of people around the patient. What can we discuss on how to get this person back on track?
Yeah, and I was mentioning this to you, but like I was blown away. I was on your website on Inspire Health Niagara, and I couldn't believe it. How many people are all working in your clinic? It's incredible. So do you want to tell us just a little bit about the team that you have operating around you?
Yeah, and so because like when we first opened up the clinic, I did have this philosophy of having different practitioners who are like-minded to help support the body. So we put together a team of naturopathic doctors. So we have 3 of them, chiropractors, massage therapists. We have an osteopathic practitioner, a psychotherapist. And basically what we do is we work as a team, pass patients around. We even will pass patients between naturopathic doctors. So it's like, hey, this one has a little more focus on like hormones, that kind of stuff. So I'll pass back. But it's kind of taking away kind of like the ego or like do this because I said so in medicine, and I'm more about like a collaborative approach. And this is coming down the pipe, and this is a big one. I've been saying it for years. the patient has to have a say or feel like they are a part of the process in what is going on with their health. And that's a difference between compliance and being on board with the treatment plan. So this is something that I feel has to be done in that integrative approach. And it happens when you're willing to work with others.
Yeah. And when you're, like you said, we go back to that intake where you're like listening to what they have to say. I feel like people go back with these jars and they're just like, okay, like I don't really know what I'm doing with this, right? But when they are listened to and they're heard and think that they are like more in a trusting scenario, right, where they're in an environment where they're like, yeah, okay, like you're listening to me, you're hearing what I have to say, so I'm listening and I'm trusting you with what you're telling me to do.
That's right.
So yeah, I think that's awesome. Amazing. Well, it's exciting that you have so much such a great team that's like circling around you, and that people can go there and kind of get that like kind of overall focus on their health, which is amazing. So I want to switch gears a little bit. I think this is becoming really prevalent. I mean, it's prevalent because of the area we live in. It's prevalent because of, what we're all up against in terms of, we touched a little bit about the, chemicals that are surrounding us, our cleaners, our, all the different things that we're exposed to. So yeah, I want to talk about environmental factors, different toxins, different allergens that are wreaking havoc on our immune systems.
So environmental factors, I think that this is a huge one, and it has a huge role in altering the way our immune system sees things. And basically, we continue to make products like plastics and chemicals and things that are very man-made. They don't get broken down very easy. And basically, when they get exposed to the body's like, okay, what do I do with this? And it's like, okay, I have it here. If I can't properly excrete it via the detox pathways, where am I going to put this? And so we're starting to realize like things are just starting to get built up in like nerve tissue, or like in the gut, in the liver. You're going to get these fat deposits and other stuff. So like it's becoming very, very tricky to navigate this. And this is where I try to give patients like a little bit of leeway in like, let's control what we can control, and let's not get super bent out of shape and like stressed about like everything.
Then it turns the other way,
right?
And the stress of it makes you into like a nightmare.
Yes. So I do play this game of the balance, and I often give out like, what are some of the big ticket items that we can ditch like starting tomorrow, and feel better. Do you know what I mean about how we're moving forward with our overall immune system. So I would say plastic does fit in this category. So we can go like through those and like just different things that are on the food. So again, with like just even like growing a few small items, there's at your house, they're not going to have anything on it, right?
Yeah. So you're getting some of those like pro health things too,
that's right? Yeah. So environmental factors are really big. And then again, not to segue too much on like seasonal allergies and things, like again, when it's in the acute phase and we're trying to like help the body, yes, minimizing exposure to pollen and the cats and the dogs, you have to do that, right? But the whole goal is to get the system built back up so it's upon re-exposure, the system's not freaking out.
It can handle it.
That's right. And so it honestly took me probably, I would say like 2, if not 3 years to fully get to the point where I was confident going back. And it was like, hey, that didn't bug me. Hey, this didn't bug me. So it's almost like my body resaw all of them and it was able to handle them. And again, not freaking out and like having a lot of those symptoms.
And we're going to get to this in a second, but I think like when you talk about things like that, and I have friends, and we're like that too, right? We're like, oh God, we have to go to like our best friend's house. We love her, but she has cats. So now it turns into like a psychological trauma where now you're trying to avoid things, and it's anxiety and it's stress related. So you end up, having to live in a situation where you're kind of like, it becomes psychological, right? Where you're scared of like your environment around you.
Yeah.
And I see it so much, especially with, parents that are paranoid for the kids. So they'll be like, oh, I know my kid has like an allergy to this. So, oh, here comes ragweed season. I have to hide my kid. Oh, you can't go outside. You can't go outside. Come here. So I think it turns into this big psychological thing that if we can fix the immune system and we can fix the microbiome, that we can like, build humans that don't have all this like mental health issues too, because it's a nightmare living like that, right?
Yes. And you brought up a very good point about, so when I talk about the immune system and we're dealing with a concern, I call it the 4 S's for the immune system, and we have to balance all 4 of these. So sleep, stress, sugars, and being sedentary. So if you think about it, maximize sleep. That's when the body's going to recharge. I'm so big on sleep. in my clinical practice. Stress. So it's like, hey, so we have stress, right? We got to minimize that one. So anything that someone's going to do where it increase stress, I'm saying let's not go there. Do you know what I mean? And I guess I should define stress too, because like acute stressor is perfectly fine. That's adversity, help you get through things, like resiliency, those are good. But there's the continuum of like chronic stress or too high of a stress. Now you're in the realm of like trauma and like the body cannot handle chronic stress. Yes. And like things are building up for too long. We're good at going through it, and then the system has to come back down and reset. So, and then sedentary, where you're not moving, the lymph tissue, these are things that are not flowing properly. Sweat, you're excreting toxins, right? So it's like, if you actually like hone in on the root of like what the systems and how the body's actually working, it's like, holy smokes, a lot of this stuff that's like, I call it the tried and true treatments and therapies. Like we got to get back to basics and get those right first before you're jumping to the latest, greatest, hey, what just showed up on TikTok, Instagram, all these things, right? And they're coming to me with these products. And I'm like, okay, I don't mind going to that product, but let's just rein in like your sleep and like some of these basic ones before we try to do that, right?
I think it's interesting that those 4 things that you mentioned are, number 1, free. They don't cost anything to do them. And number 2, they're the hardest things because you really have to work hard at like overhauling. Those are like things that are built into your behaviors, right? So we're going to talk a little bit soon. We're going to talk a little bit about kind of lifestyle and touch again on these things. But yeah, I think it's true. I think these are things that like people really need to start paying attention to and just chip away slowly, right? Like you said, I think it's great that you're giving people like kind of manageable changes.
Yes.
And you turn into like almost like a therapist. It's
so
like,
true.
How can we get 1 more hour sleep? Do you have to watch that show?
Yes.
Do you have to watch 9 episodes? Can you watch 8 episodes? You know? So yeah, I think really trying to like give people manageable ways to change those 4 S's like could be really helpful.
Yeah. Speaking of like Instagram things, like I just recently heard a bunch about like parasites and parasite cleanses and stuff like that. Is this something that like, is that only done with drugs? Is there just stuff you can do in your diet that helps that? Or
Yep. So good question. So these are things that we are constantly trying to like assess and like help patients with in the realm of, again, parasites, say fungus, yeast, other things that are living in the gastrointestinal tract.
Bacteria.
That's right. Unfortunately, these are things that can get into the food, and then if we consume them and say our system is not strong enough, they're going to find a home to live. So I guess my joke with patients, that's right. And my joke with patients, I'm like, well, I'm trying to get your system strong enough where it's like, okay, it came in via food or water, or you swam in like whatever, some sort of pool or somewhere else where you might have swallowed some water, but I want it to go in your system where it's like, okay, I can't find a home, out the other end. So it's the ones with damaged and like compromised gastrointestinal tracts that are going to have it where it's like, I found a home. Do you know what I mean? And now I'm living, I latched on. And yes, these parasites can become problematic. So I do try to take patients through like little protocols where like we call it a dysbiosis. So if there's like an imbalance in the gastrointestinal tract, someone might have bloating, cramping, distension, abdominal pain. That is not normal. You should not be eating food and then feeling super bloated. That is not a normal feeling. Although in North America, that's our new normal. Right? Oh, this is our new normal, right? Oh, do people eat and actually not feel bloated? The answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
And we have to figure
eating
out
the right foods.
Yeah, and we have to figure out that dysbiosis. Is it like problematic? Do we have to refix it and balance it? So I use a lot of ingredients. So like black walnut is a really good one.
We have them in our backyard. Yeah. Oh, me and Jen were out picking them in your backyard. You literally came in with like black hands.
Yeah. And so these are things that, funny enough, like animals in the wild will go seek out and eat some of these, and they're cleansing, right? Their own system to like not have them. So I feel like with humans, we've kind of gotten away to tapping into our instinctual feelings, and we just go with what like our societal norms and what is everyone else up
what
to.
TikTok's doing.
Yeah, exactly. So with the parasites, yes, we do want to try to like help rid the body of these and get back to a normal operating system. But there are some that will potentially go in there, and they're not like causing tons of havoc. Do you know what I mean? But again, pay attention to signs and symptoms and like how your body feels. And that's the biggest thing that
Awesome.
Well, another thing was grounding too. I think you mentioned that, and I always find like I work construction, so I'm on my feet all the time, and in the summertime I have like no foot pain or inflammation, and then in the wintertime it comes right back, and I feel like I have like plantar fasciitis or something like that. but then I notice I'm like, I think it's because I'm not in contact with the ground. Like, this is a real thing.
It is an absolute real thing, and like we're starting to catch on with research. It's called Shinrin Yoku, so fancy word for like forest bathing and like being out in nature, and like the grounding effect that like nature and trees and moss and all of that has is super powerful. And again, not to say things like, I have lots of patients who come in and like, I just bought a grounding mat. I'm like, awesome, and it works. Do you know what I mean? And then I'm like, you could probably flip your shoes off and walk through the grass, do you know what I mean? And then go for a hike, or like just put your feet in water, like things that are like nature based, and they will be calming and grounding to your system. And again, we live in a busy society, so like some of these things are good little tools to do. But yes, grounding, in my opinion, is super important, and it's for the nervous system. So if it's just like buzzing, and at the end of the day, people feel like their head's spinning and almost like the nerves are buzzing and that kind of stuff, that's a sign that you're not doing enough things for the parasympathetic nervous system and to ground your body. And that takes a toll when you do that over and over. And again, the body's like...
just leaving it in there.
That's right. And the body's super resilient in the fact that it can also endure a beating for a very long time. So people can have like bad habits, and they're like, I did this for smoke for 20 years and I did this. The body's like very, very resilient. That's right. And then the problem is we just can't push it too far, because then that's going to be like disease is going to crop in. But we have to keep it back into balance and give it what it needs, and then it's going to do what it does for you, right?
Would you have recommendations for the winter? Because that's, I'm like, I'm not going to go out with my shoes
Get in there in the snow. That's what I tell them. I'm like, get out there, wussy.
See how long I can last.
Get out in the snow.
Usually I'm like, okay, time for vacation. No.
Exactly.
I do say things like, I try to embrace maybe like a little cold plunge or like things, but you can still hike, dress warm. Do you know what I mean? For people who don't want the cold. And then I also get it where lots of people are like, I don't like mosquitoes or bugs or anything that's going to bite me. So I am constantly on
You're like, you are the new human.
So I'm constantly on an individual basis trying to work it out with patients as to like, okay, I'll pitch the ideas. These have been shown to help. Like, let's figure out one that's going to fit into like your lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. It has to be digestible, right? And I think that, again, is really exciting for patients that are looking for something alternative, where they're going to have, not to say they're handheld, but, they need someone to instruct them during those certain things, or even just give them permission to do that. I found with clients, I'm like, do I need to tell you that it's okay to like take this time for yourself, or to get rid of that like toxic person in your life?
That's right.
So I think that's where, both of our professions and our communities, we end up being, the therapist part, because you're trying to give people the understanding and then the permission to like do some of these otherwise super healthy habits. Like you should just, it should be innate, right? It should be natural.
Yeah, agreed.
But people need to be retaught how to do this. So so my last 2 points were, just we kind of touched on them a little bit, but stress, how stress is involved in the immune system, and how exercise. So we can kind of talk about them separately, but I think they go together. I think people are not giving how much their exercise could literally just alleviate their stress. Even if we are going through stressful days, and of course, yes, we're stressed, we're parents, yes, we're stressed, we have jobs and we have businesses. But I think the exercise, like for me anyways, it really, and we talk about this, we're so blessed that our jobs are really physical, but including exercise, how can that, yes, alleviate stress, emotional situations, but also build the immune system?
Yeah. So both of those, they do play a big role. They're part of the 4 S's for the overall immune function. So with stress, again, I'm always trying to educate patients. I'm like, cortisol, not inherently bad. So everyone who's doing like a cortisol detox and this kind of stuff, I'm like, no, you need cortisol. It's part of your circadian rhythm. It's just, we can't have cortisol constantly being dumped like nonstop throughout the day. And then we can't like rinse and repeat and do that the next day. Now we're into a month, now 3 months, now we're a year in, and it's like, holy smokes, that type of stress is bad for the body. But little stressors here to learn your limits. How far can I push my body? That's very useful, in my opinion, to the human body.
For sure.
But
that's how we get the stuff done.
That's right. So it's more the long-term and chronic stress that I tend to pick on, because it's keeping the body in a state that's not advantageous to keep the immune system strong and that kind of stuff. So and then with exercise, I would say hands down, just the fact that your body's moving and sweating, so releasing toxins, getting things out of your system, and then the movement. So there are different things in our body where you actually require movement and skeletal muscle to compress to recirculate blood back through. So all the arteries in our body, so those are the ones that are bringing oxygen to the tissue, those ones have musculature that they can contract. like veins that are bringing deoxygenated blood back to the lungs to get oxygen and then to the heart. They require skeletal muscle to push it back through the system. And same thing with lymphatic tissue. They require a little bit of help, do you know what I mean, to like get that to go back to where it needs to go. So dry skin brushing, that kind of stuff, and movement is going to help those vessels do their job. So again, it's serving as like important things. And then not to mention, movement helps stress. So it's 100%. Like stress, anxiety. So getting the body moving. So they play big roles in immunity.
It's funny how I always think like you have kind of two options and it always tends to be the opposite of what you would think. So if you're, I'm injured or I'm sore or something like that, sometimes like actually movement and motion is what's going to help it rather than sitting back and relaxing, right?
Yes. And that's I literally have these conversations with patients because I'm also the type of person, like I'm like an all or none, like I need it to be like really good and be prepared and that kind of stuff. So I struggled when we started to like grow our family, and like I'm like, okay, my workouts are like
keep growing your family and keep growing your family and keep growing your family.
And then 4 kids later, now we stopped. So with that, I struggled because I was used to going and working out like 5 days a week. So I didn't understand the concepts that like 3 days a week is better than none. So I would go through a period of like struggling, and then I would hit my 5 days and maybe overworked my system, and then like that wasn't good. So I've adapted that thinking, and now it comes down to I want movement to be fun. I want to enjoy it. And again, I try to strive for like 3 days a week, maybe doing something that's like might be in a gym, and then 1 day hiking, 1 day gardening. So like my exercise plan that I put together for patients, it's trying to incorporate like different forms of movement, but number one is having fun and actually just getting out there and doing it, because we want compliance to like be a lot longer than, hey, I followed that plan for like 6 weeks. The trainer kicked my butt. Do you know what I mean? But now he's gone, right? And now what do I do?
I'm never going back.
Yeah. I know. I think chopping wood used to be so good for people, and now like we're not allowed wood stoves, and it took it away from us, right?
You both still chop wood.
Yeah.
And me and Jen just sit there and yell at you. I mean, obviously, you're an amazing naturopath, but I also will say second to that might be your coaching ability.
No, thank you.
So I think it's really nice to watch. I mean, you're so supportive in the community, and I think you're teaching like another generation to like keep active and moving, right? So yeah, I just want to throw that in here, that my son is just, enthralled with you.
Thank you.
Kenneth's his hockey coach.
Yeah,
He just loves him. So yeah, it's great for the kids to see that. And I mean, I think that for all of our children, right, we're being like role models to them, and my students as well, that like we need to keep active. So like showing them through practice, I think is the best. So yeah, families that are being inactive, I would say, just find fun ways to be active together, especially as a team, right? Okay, so we have a couple more things. I just wanted to see how, because I know a lot of, we get a lot of questions surrounding naturopathy and how to incorporate that. I feel like patients kind of feel like they're like cheating on their doctor when they go to a naturopath, or vice versa. And I don't want people to feel like that. I want like people to feel like, no, you guys are like, we're all working together. We're all looking for like a solution to whatever situations or health issues that people are coming up with.
So early on in practice, you literally took the words of what patients would say. They're like, I feel like I was cheating on you going to my medical doctor, or I felt when I came over here, it was the same way. And then so like, as part of how I explain for like any new patient visit, I do explain that patient focused model, and I like integrative health. So it's like, hey, we might need a medication at this time. I want to help you so you're not on it for life. Maybe there's things we can do in conjunction with that medication that actually makes the medication work better, right? And then, hey, we'll strive to like maybe get you off of it, or you might need to be on it, right? But this is where that integrative approach is so important. And for people to think like, should I add them on my team? Should I not? My answer is always yes, right? And then this way you have a second set of eyes, someone else to advocate for you if there's a missing test or that kind of stuff. Because I can say how many times someone has come to me and like, all the blood work was ran, it all came back fine, we don't know what's going on. And then I look at the blood work, like, there's a lot of labs missing, right? So it's like, you didn't check a single nutrient, not a single functional marker. Like, how about let's go ask, or even naturopaths, we can run these labs, right? So we can send someone to look at them, and then now we're looking at the whole picture of everything that's going on. So I do think that it's less of like a conflict, and it's more of like, let's just have a team that plays well together, respects each other, and and I definitely don't step on people's toes, or I'm not conflictive or combative, and I'm not going to do things that are going to go against the treatment that they're trying to achieve. And I think this is where like antibiotics is kind of one of them that like I bring up, especially with the immune system, is like you want antibiotics to be effective and useful for the infection that you're trying to treat. But I think we run into a problem with like chronic use of them. So it's like every couple of weeks, if you're like, you need a new one, or I need a new one this month, and then it goes right back to the antibiotic, it's going to wipe out, say, the infection sinusitis. But what happens when it inadvertently takes out some of the good bacteria in the gut? And then it's not common knowledge that like that gut microbiome, it can take like 6 months to like 9 months. Yeah, years.
2 years I've read.
To regenerate, right? So it's like, hey, that could be a bad situation, right? So I when people take antibiotics, I'm always following it up with a probiotic.
Exactly.
Then I'm trying to help like with the gut microbiome and like the repair and that kind of
flushing all the soldiers out of the castle.
That's right.
Exactly.
And all that, that's right. Like say all the little villagers who are helping you, like, hey, over there, like there's someone trying to intrude, right? Now you just wiped them all out, right? So they can't communicate. And I still think this is an area of research that these postbiotics, I think there's ways for those compounds to communicate to the immune system that are kind of signaling them and telling them like, hey,
they
help
might
us
be
out.
like sending it to like the T cells that are going to the different areas to like mark them, right? They're sending DNA with it or genetic.
Yep.
Oh, that's so awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
So our last one, we can just talk a little bit more. I know you had kind of described the team that you have at Inspire Health Niagara. That's amazing. How can people get in touch with you?
The easiest way by far is our website. So even if you just like Google or look up Inspire Health Niagara, our website is www.inspirehealthniagara.com. Lots of information on our website. People can book visits there. They can send us an email. I like answering questions. I always do, even to this day, 13 years in. I'll do free 15-minute consults. So I just say, hey, call me up. Like we'll set one up and we'll chat, see if it's a right fit, see if there's things that I can do to help. So I'm big on those. Those are the best ways.
Amazing. Phone number?
You're
like, look at the website. Don't call me. Email me. Don't call me.
I still think email is the best way, because
perfect.
then we can see what's going on, and then we can set something up from there.
Okay, and location.
So we are located on Morrison Street. So we are it's called the Niagara Sports Medicine Building. So we're in there with like an orthopedic surgeon, a big physio clinic. We're on the second floor. And again, everything's on our website for details with that.
Amazing. And I just I promised Jen, we were close, I told her I'd give a plug for their farm camp. You can also find all the information for their farm camp. Our kids went last year. It was incredible. For our listeners, for my Infinite Motion students, definitely check it out. It's amazing. Your property is amazing. So much fun.
Oh, thank you.
So fun. So fun for the kids. So it was awesome to have you on. Thank you so much. We'll definitely have you back again. Thank you so much for being on.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Don't forget to follow us on Spotify and you'll never miss a podcast.